Welcome to the Howzit.ca podcast, where we share insightful stories and advice aimed at helping South Africans settle, explore, and succeed in Canada.
Hi, my name is Melanie and welcome to the Howzit.ca podcast. Today on our show, I'm joined by Deanne and Werner from Canada Abroad. Welcome, Deanne and Werner. It's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks, Melanie. It's great to be chatting with you today.
Melanie, it's very good to be part of the show.
Fantastic. So let's start at the beginning. I'm going to maybe just go back to the experience from a bit more about Canada Abroad. So Deanne has over 12 years experience in the Canadian immigration industry, including 5 years as a Canada Border Services Officer with a focus on immigration. She's also gone through the immigration process herself to South Africa. So guys, I'm going to ask you the first question on everyone's mind. A Canadian and a South African sounds like a great start of a good story. Tell me more about how the two of you met. And be honest, Dan, are South African guys really cuter?
Well, most of them are cuter, but it was really the accent actually that I found really attractive when I first met him. But I'll let Werner maybe start the story of how we met, because everyone does ask us that. So did we meet in South Africa or Canada?
Yeah, so it happened about the end of 2009, start of 2010. I just finished my studies back home, and at the end of that year, I went on a snowboarding trip to Austria, just a mate and myself, and yeah, Deanne just happened to be on the same trip, and we met up there, and I suppose you can say we sort of liked each other, and then, yeah, things just sort of bloomed and blossomed from there. We kept in touch over email, and she told me, she's going to come and visit in March. I said, yeah, really, you're going to come all the way from Canada to South Africa? And the next day she sent me the ticket, and yeah, that was March 2010, and yeah, the next thing I knew it, she was staying in South Africa with me, and when was it, about a year later, 2 years later, we actually got married, and we moved down to Cape Town. We were in Cape Town for a while. Then we went to the big apple of South Africa, which is Johannesburg. And we were there for a few years, and yeah, last year we just made the decision that we want to raise our girls in Canada, and then we moved to Canada last year.
Yeah, so we spent 8 years together in South Africa, so I've seen it all there and been to all the different places. Yeah. And it was quite funny because on that trip, Werner went with his best friend, and he also met his wife on that trip, who was from Australia. So they both kind of came home with foreigners.
Yeah.
The South African boys are just irresistible, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Seems like it. Yeah.
It seems like it. Yeah, no. So many people actually ask my friend and I, what is this trip that you guys went on? Geez, we also want to go and get a foreigner wife and all of that. And yeah, so it's actually one of the common trips that many South Africans and Aussies and people from the UK go on, and that's the Kontiki trip that we went on. And for students, it's a cheap way to see Europe and to go snowboarding and stuff and have a good time.
Really fun.
And you guys are settled in Ottawa now?
Yeah, so it's we're in the capital of Canada, and we've been back here now for just over 6 months, I would say.
Yeah, 6-7 months, really. No.
Yeah. Went through Werner's very first Canadian winter. We're just coming up on the end of it, heading into spring. So, that's one of the questions we also get asked a lot is, well, what's the best part of Canada weather-wise to go to? But I mean, Melanie, you know this too. You're going to get winter. It doesn't matter where you go. You're going to get some kind of a winter. And, I came from Vancouver, which is what everyone thinks is the warmest part of Canada. So this was my first really crazy winter. And it really wasn't, I didn't find it bad. It didn't feel as cold as it was.
No, it didn't, to be honest with you. I think many people think of Canada of just going to BC and stuff, But Vancouver is obviously beautiful. It's a little bit warmer and stuff there, but it actually depends as a person and as a family what you like. If you like milder temperatures, and you don't actually mind overcast.
Lots of rain.
overcast weather and stuff, then you can like look at Vancouver and like British Columbia. But if you want more sun, then you need to look a little bit more eastwards, like Ontario. So I think that was like one of the biggest decisions for us that we needed to make. And obviously, me being from like South Africa, I like needs sun in my life. Even though if it's a little bit cold and stuff, I need the sun. So that's actually one of the main reasons why we actually said that we need to move to Ontario.
Yeah, I mean, we also looked at housing costs, being from Vancouver and knowing what that was. We did take a look and, bang for your buck, you're going to get a better home in Ontario. And Ottawa, I mean, it's kind of like a Pretoria feel, like it's a smaller city, but it's still
It's a smaller
bigger.
city, but it's big. And it's
not
like
like Toronto or anything.
Yeah, and it's like, I would say it's like very up and coming as well.
Yeah, it's growing quite a bit. So, that was nice for us. I mean, it's the capital region as well, which was, there's lots of things going around with immigration and stuff here, which was good. I knew 2 people here, so we did come and look around before we decided on settling in Ottawa. We came in the winter just to make sure that we could adjust to that and Werner would be okay with it, and looked at the different neighborhoods and, did we think this was going to be a good fit for us and the kids? And we loved it. And we picked a great neighborhood. We're really close to schools. There's one in the background. I mean, we're close to parks. So it's just been like really great. I mean, we knew we didn't want to be in a huge city. We're happy in the suburbs, but everyone's different. But it was affordable. It was great for families. And, that's what we were looking for at the time. So
yeah, exactly.
And Ottawa is quite easy to travel to and from around Ontario as well. So it makes for an easy commute if you want to travel a bit over the weekends or on holidays. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we're really close to New York, like New York State, and even driving, or you can, Montreal, Toronto, there's an international airport, so you can fly. So it's, for travel, it's quite convenient. Toronto's got more options in terms of flights, but there's quite a bit that you can see and do within a few hours of Ottawa. So it's been quite nice that way.
Yeah, and I think like one of the cool things about living in the capital, there's like always like something on.
Yeah, quite a few events.
Yeah, there's like many awesome museums and stuff there, which they like keep on changing the exhibits. And yeah, no, it's just been like pretty awesome, just like settling in here, and the Canadians that are like very warm and inviting. And yeah, we've like made like so many good friends, just like our neighbors and stuff in the street. So it's just been very good.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, I know a bit about you enjoying your running as well. So running in Canada, is it different to running in South Africa?
Yeah,
What's your experience been like?
I was joking with Werner about this the other day. It's so easy to be a runner in South Africa because, pretty much every day you wake up, it's beautiful and it's sunny. Might be 0 degrees in the winter, not too crazy. But I went for a run the other day and, there's some ice and snow on the sidewalks. And I think it was -15 with the wind chill. But once I started going, I mean, it was fine. It's just like you work a lot of muscles to balance yourself when it's icy. So you get a better workout. But it's definitely doable. So it's, again, people think that you have to give up all these things because of the winter. But in Canada, we just go out and do them anyway.
Absolutely. And it's like they say, it's never bad weather, it's just bad clothing.
Yes,
so,
yeah. If you have the proper clothing, it really actually doesn't matter what the temperature is.
Absolutely. So it's been good for the runners out there. So get your gear on and you'll be able to do it. I know many people are doing some marathons. There's some amazing marathons. There's a Toronto marathon. I'm sure there must be some in Ottawa as well. There's all over.
Yeah,
Canada.
The Ottawa Marathon is the long weekend in May. I'm actually doing the half this year. So it'll be interesting. You get to run through, Ottawa and see all the landmarks, and it goes through part of Quebec as well. So it's going to be quite interesting to see that.
So Werner, what is your feeling around the winter in Canada? And is it really as bad as everybody tells you?
To be honest with you, even though on like Canadian standards in Ontario, this has been quite a mild winter, but mild, I think the worst it got for us was like -25, -28 in the evening. It wasn't actually that bad, you know. Yes, obviously it's cold and stuff outside, but I mean, if you wear the correct layers and you just have a toque on and a jacket and possibly for some people like a neck warmer, then you're fine. I think we had a bit of a shock, like just at the beginning of winter, because like winter just like sort of like started all of a sudden. It was like pretty hectic, like I think it was like -12. Then we like weren't like really prepared because, like I said, it was just like all of a sudden. But I mean, like now at the tail end of winter, if it's like -10, it's almost want to say it's like a normal day. Yeah, so it's honestly not that bad. I've just gotten used to it. You just like put on your jacket and you put on your toque and you go outside, you know. Yeah, it's honestly not that bad at all to me. But I must also be honest with you. I am like looking forward to the spring and the summer though.
Spring is a myth. That's what I've realized in this country. I don't
really?
know. Yes, for me, spring is pretty. So it's beautiful flowers, and it just like the tulips. What I noticed last year is the tulips just took weeks to come out. So you just have this green, beautiful area, but it stays cold for a while. But it's at least it's very pretty. So it was a highlight for me. So that was a good thing about spring, I think. That was my experience.
Yeah, check for me, Melanie. As long as I can just like start seeing like the grass come through, see a bit of greenery, you know, that will like put a smile on my face. So yeah, if the warmth comes a little bit later on, then yeah, that's also fine by me. But as long as there's a little bit of greenery, a person can like go outside, go to the parks and stuff with your kids, I'm all for that.
Absolutely. And have you guys embraced the winter in terms of doing a bit of skiing? I know that the tobogganing must have been, that's something that South Africans don't really know much about, but that is one of the highlights of having children in Canada, is going downhill. It's just the greatest experience and so much fun. Have you guys done anything exciting in terms of winter sports?
So Deanne and I were quite fortunate that her parents were here for about 2 weeks, and I think we slipped away for one day, and then we went skiing, just like her and I. There's like a hill about 35-40 minutes away. We went skiing for the day, so like that was pretty good. I think that was like the start of the winter sometime, and we just had like Winterlude that finished I think about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They had quite a lot of tubing and like zip lining and stuff. And Aurora, my eldest daughter, and I, we went tubing a bit. So like that was actually quite fun. My youngest daughter, she's like still too small. So yeah, we haven't done the tobogganing thing. But yeah, that will like definitely be on the cards for sometime in the near future.
There's so much to do in the winter in Canada. It's just they've embraced it so well, and there's, you know, wherever you go, the people are playing tennis in the middle of winter under one of those canopies. They are playing soccer. They have got indoor, you name the sport, and it's there. I know that we've got quite a few of our fellow Howzit listeners, and they've got kids playing rugby.
Oh wow!
Right through, you know, and it's girls included. So it's not just guys; it's girls and guys included, and they go right throughout the year. So that saying "Afrika is nie vir sissies nie," I think neither is Canada. You know, so it's just embrace the winter is one of the pieces of advice that I always give people, is go and learn how to ice skate. You know, it's free skating parts. I'm sure in Ottawa, doesn't Ottawa have the biggest outdoor skate area? I know that they've got a magnificent in downtown Ottawa.
Yes,
they've got skating on the lake, right? I think.
Yeah, on the canals and stuff. I think once it's like totally frozen over, it's like the longest free skating that you can do, I think, anywhere in the world. I think if it's like cold enough and everything freezes, you can ski for about 7 Ks or something crazy like that. Yeah, no, and it's that's like awesome to do. Like you and your family can just go out there, have a beaver tail on the canal, and have a cup of hot chocolate, and just go skating a bit, eh?
Absolutely. Oh, now I think I need to go and get a beaver tail. That sounds yummy. So I want to move on to Canada Abroad itself, the company. Tell us more about it, your clients, how it started, where you guys are based, those kind of things. Maybe give us some background.
Yeah, so when I first moved to South Africa, because I was a foreigner, couldn't find a job where I could get a decent salary. So I had been a border services agent and, working in immigration back home in Canada. So when I moved to South Africa, I kind of looked at that and saw that there was quite a few, dodgy and scam companies out there. And I just kind of wanted to give people an option for someone that was actually legitimate and, going to give you an honest opinion. So I did have to study for a year on top of my existing education to get regulated for that, pass my exams. And then I started the company, started out in Cape Town and just started, small with a few clients. And, luckily people liked having somebody who would be honest with them, give them proper advice. And it just kind of grew from there. And then, we hired some other employees and it's just grown from there. Most of our clients have been from South Africa because obviously that's where we were. But we are now starting to get clients from around the world. So it's been really interesting and great to see. And you get to learn, a lot about different cultures and you get so many interesting stories, especially when you're doing spousal applications, how people met, just like Werner and I from around the world. And now they're moving to Canada. So it's been, it's been a very interesting journey and very rewarding as well, because I did Werner's sponsorship. So we know personally how important this process is for people and how stressful it can be. So it's, that's just kind of how we started the company, and Werner has been registered now too. So it's definitely kind of like a family business. And yeah, that's us basically.
Additional to that is that you guys are in Ottawa now, but you definitely do still have representation in South Africa. The offices are fully running and it's just added a benefit to you guys being in Ottawa, right?
Yeah, so we still have, we call it the admin office. So Nicolene and Madeleine in South Africa, and they're there on South African time, so answering the phones and everything like that. And then Werner and I are here in Canada. So we definitely are operating both countries. And it's just been, a bit of a help because with the South African clients, at least there's someone there completely on South African time, because we come online a little bit later, but then we're also working until the evening South African time. So it's just actually a bit more coverage in that term.
Back to your Canadian Services border agent. For that period of 5 years that you've been there, that must have been quite interesting, and you must have seen and heard a few things. Maybe share with us what that experience was like and what impact did it have on your profession as an immigration consultant?
Yeah, that was a very interesting period of my time. I just come out of university, so quite young. It definitely helped me grow as a person because you have to be, quite a strong personality to do that job, because you're dealing with quite a few people on a daily basis. Sometimes the interaction is okay. Sometimes it's not so great. So, searching people's bags. I've had to strip search people, things like that. I've found drugs. I've found weapons. So there's quite a few interesting things that I've seen. And, I've had to send people back that maybe have been traveling for 20 something hours. They arrive and for whatever reason, you have to send them back home that same day. So we saw a lot of different things. And when I started working the immigration side, because how we work now is you have to do customs and immigration, is some people, what they went through to get their visas. And also sometimes if they were given the wrong advice and trying to come in on the wrong visa, when they get to the border, they're being sent back. And that was really heartbreaking to see sometimes. So it also kind of gave me perspective on both sides of it. So obviously there's people who really shouldn't be coming into the country and you're enforcing that. And on the other side, some people just got really bad advice and, they were being separated maybe from their family for longer than they needed to. And that kind of gave me perspective on both sides of things. So obviously when I was starting my company, I had seen that firsthand and wanted to make sure that people were getting the right advice. So it was, it was very interesting. And also you got to interact with a lot of different cultures because I worked in Vancouver. So quite a variety of flights coming in from all over the world there. And that was, good exposure for me because you learn that every culture is different. They might have different questions or be concerned with different things. So that experience really helped me as well with just dealing with people from different countries.
So do you have any interesting or exciting story? We've all been watching the border control and are scared witless by the time that we land up at the border. Have you seen some funny moments or some experiences that you could go, this one was for the books?
Oh, yes, definitely. Number one, when they're taping those shows, and it's kind of funny because they do have the Canadian version as well. I mean, they have to make hours and hours of tape to get anything interesting. So it's definitely what you're seeing is not constantly going on. It's more of a rarity. So not everyone is mean. You're not always going to get checked. You don't have to be afraid. But yeah, I mean, I've found huge amounts of drugs. Had to strip search people. And the misconception on that is no one's ever going to touch you. I know everyone loves to say that one. It doesn't happen. We've seen people with coming back from, exotic locations that animals have crept into their bags, like a scorpion that has then beautiful. Stung an officer. So you see a lot of really interesting things there. Confiscate a lot of interesting things. Some of it, is a little personal. I'm not going to go into it, but it's just, it was a very interesting situation. But like I said, just don't be afraid of the officers. They're there to help most of the time. But yeah, the U.S. though, I'm still scared of. Even though I've worked as an officer, when I have to travel into the States, I'm always a bit scared of them. But Canada's not so bad.
Yeah, the Canadians seem to be the friendly guys around, but that show surely scarred me for life. I am scared witless at any airport that I get to.
No, I know. And recently, I mean, Werner's mother was coming to visit us, and she was traveling through the States and didn't know that she needed to do that online ETA thing. So she got into the States. She was an hour away from Ottawa, and they sent her all the way back to South Africa.
No way.
Yeah, so that's why I say, like, it's the States is no joke.
Oh.
So it's unfortunate. So things like that happen. So always make sure you also have the right visa.
And just out of interest, would that then denial or refusal of entry, would that go onto your record as you've been denied entry into the country? And would it affect you in any way when you apply for a visa again, let's say a visitor's visa or that kind of thing?
So it does go on the file, but they would see what happened. So you will have to tick on any application that you've been refused a visa, but then you would just say, I forgot to do the online application before I got there, so I was just allowed to go home. So unless it was, that you got refused for a criminal record or you're bringing drugs into the country, it's not something that's going to affect you in the future. It's just something you have to note down.
Okay. But I think the bottom line advice is try and be as clear as possible and make it simple. Don't put things in there that you don't want to be found because they're going to be found. And I'm sure this is one that we've seen on many social platforms and websites is why use an immigration agent. I think you've highlighted it so well when you mentioned the fact that the experience that you've had as a border agent for so long and what that brought to the table. You doing Werner's application, you guys have gone through that same process. What's your thoughts around when you get asked that question of why use an immigration agent?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the first thing I tell people is you absolutely don't have to. Some people are able to navigate the programs on their own, and that's great. Some people have, a bit more complicated applications, either maybe there's a criminal record involved, or maybe they're not able to get the exact documents the government wants, or maybe there's a health concern, or maybe they just don't really understand the process. So some people kind of think, okay, well, if you use an agent or lawyer, that you have to use them for the whole process. And that's kind of a misconception, because the one thing that we love is just doing the consultations. So you can come to us and have a chat, and we map out the options for you realistically. And then you can take that information and, do it yourself. And some people, if they get stuck or they just don't have the time, then maybe they hire us to do the full process. So it's not that you have to use one, but some people find that to just pay for a consult for 30 or 60 minutes, get the exact correct information for their application, Because, on the forums, people have said, and this is what they tell us, that there's just too much information. It gets very confusing. They don't know how the programs work together. They don't know what's true, what's not. So they've just said, to meet with us, get a clear picture. What is realistic? What is their chances? What is step 1, 2, 3, and 4? And we lay that out for them. And then they say, okay, I'm confident now that I can go and do it. So, you don't have to use us to do the full thing. If you don't use us at all, that's fine. But if you are confused or you're just have a few complications, then it's worth even just having a chat with somebody.
Absolutely. I can vouch for that. I remember, and we chatted about this offline, is that when we visited yourselves to go through the process, for us, it was really about understanding where does it fit in, what would give us the best chances, and not go through months and months of people's personal opinions.
Yes.
Let's understand what is the lay of the land that will allow us and not waste time to get to having the maximum amount of points, and what is the easiest point of entry for us as a family to get in. So I think that really was a great benefit for us to know that up front and not trying to get advice, because many times we got the wrong advice, which would lead us down this rabbit hole of personal opinions. If you could kind of have a clear view of what's happening, it just makes it so much easier and quicker. And for many applicants, time is not on their hands. So you do have a challenge to get your application in as soon as possible, right? Do you want to maybe highlight some facts that you feel the public should know?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, a lot of different misconceptions and had a lot of questions around it. So depending on the individual, they might think that they're all scams, because we know that there's a lot of companies targeting South Africa right now, taking advantage of people, giving them false hope and taking quite a bit of money from them. So there is that misconception that all of them are crooked, which is definitely not the case. But you just have to do your homework and maybe ask the right questions to make sure that whoever you're dealing with is a legitimate business. So that's just kind of the first thing to be aware of. Number 2, the misconception, like I said, that you have to use us for the full process. Absolutely not. You can have a quick consult, get the info you need, and then go off on your own. The other misconception that they might have is that there's no benefit. And like I said, for some people, that's true. Absolutely. But for some people, if you do have a bit more complicated case, you might not be able to do it on your own, because you have to ask yourself, okay, with this application, and especially for people maybe that are using Express Entry right now, if it gets refused for any reason, and I have to go back into the Express Entry pool, what is the likelihood that my score is going to get me an ITA again? Because with Express Entry, if you're missing a document, they're just going to cancel it and send it back. You got to go back in the pool. If something is wrong, they're not going to come back and ask you to clarify it. They're just going to refuse it. So that's where, if you know that maybe some of your documents aren't 100%, or you don't understand something, it's worth getting a review, asking some questions, whatever you need, just to make sure everything's 100%. So I think the misconception is just, sometimes they think we're illegitimate. We are not like that. We're completely regulated and registered. The ones, whether it's an immigration or a lawyer, you can always verify that. And just, make sure that you only ask for what you need. Don't let someone pressure you into getting more service than you need. If you just have a few questions, then just tell them that. And that should be fine for them if they're a legitimate business.
Absolutely. Some great advice there. Thanks. We have seen some interesting times over the last 12 months in terms of the landscape for immigration. It's changed. You do some regular updates on various social media channels regarding the draws, and we've actually had a draw yesterday happening. I think it was 471, right?
Yep.
And maybe I just want to ask, can you give your professional opinion on how this immigration process and the landscape's changed over the last 12 months, and what do you predict will happen?
Yeah, it's been, quite crazy. If we look at 2019, if we go back to January to now, back in January of last year, people with a 438 were getting picked, and now we're stuck up in the 470s. But the reason for it is just the number of people globally that have gone into the Express Entry system has, since last year almost doubled. So there's more people in the pool, but more shocking to me is sort of from September last year, the number of people coming into the pool with scores above 450 it's gone up about probably times 4. Wow. So 400% increase. So that's what's causing,
that's big.
Yeah, so that's what's causing these scores to be so high because, if a draw, they take 3,900 people, those people are removed from the system. So if no new people come in, then that's how the score is going to go down. But what we're seeing is every 2 weeks, a ton of people with super high scores are still coming in. So it's been, quite surprising. So these people, if you kind of look at how the point system works, maybe they have Canadian experience, maybe they have a sibling in Canada, or they studied in Canada. Those are kind of the things that would bring them up to that level. You do get people who have no, Canadian ties, but maybe they're just very young, good education, good work experience. But it's quite difficult to hit that mark right now. So going forward, what we've kind of told people is, unless you actually are up in the 470s, because even 460 hasn't been picked in quite a while now, you need to look at ways to increase your score. You can't just sit back now and think that it's going to come down at this stage. Because unfortunately, the number of people, like I said, entering with high scores, it's not stopping. You'd have to get pretty much, when I looked at the numbers yesterday, there needs to be about 20,000 people removed from the pool before we're even going to see people at the 450 mark getting picked.
So those marks are definitely not going to come down in the next 12 months. I don't think so either. I agree with you.
I don't think so, yeah. Unless, basically with the amount of people they pick and how many draws, there would have to be nobody entering the system with a score above 450 for the next, maybe 4 months for us to see it go in the 450s again.
It's a good reality check, I think, for South Africans, maybe just to check that again and again to get the right advice in terms of how to increase your points to get a likely chance of being drawn. It's not as easy as it used to be. So it's going to be an interesting journey going forward, and we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll chat to you regularly in terms of your view of what you're seeing and experiencing right now. So, and one of the questions that leading on to that would be, because there's so many people coming in, do you, from your perspective, do you only assist South Africans wanting to come into Canada, or do you look outside the borders as well?
Yeah, so we assist people from around the world, so not just South Africans, but obviously a majority of our clients have been from there. But I mean, we've had clients from Russia, the US, Australia, Ireland, the UK, Vietnam recently, different countries in Africa. We've done some from Mexico, South America. So it's really, you get the picture that it's not just from one region of the world that people are looking to come to Canada. It's global. I mean, everybody is looking at Canada right now because the changes going on, with the US, it's incredibly difficult to get in there. Australia made some changes recently that have, affected people who thought they were going to go there. And then other countries, you have to have a job offer. So with Canada right now, it's one of the easier countries to get into. So a lot of people have started focusing on Canada, whereas before they might not have been looking. And that's, I think, also had a huge effect on the number of people going into the express entry system.
Okay, that's so it is increasing, as you said, and it's great to see that there's many people coming in. So what we do, if we do this right, the impact of that could be a much more successful application, right? So
exactly.
That'd be great.
With is beforehand, we always like to get your background. So education that you have, your work experience, we focus on the last 10 years because that's what most programs look at. And then your age. So we like to get that beforehand just so we can verify anything that we need to. And then from your side, the client side, to make sure they get what they need, make a list of any questions that you have. I mean, some people come with 5 pages, some people have a few. It doesn't matter. Bring all of your questions with, because you want to make sure that anything you're confused on, anything that's really important to you, that you get clarity on it. So just make sure that you don't have to have done any research. You don't have to know anything about the process, but just any concerns that you have, bring those questions with you. And just make sure that we have the most up-to-date information. The other thing, sometimes, we have to ask difficult questions in the consultation. It's all confidential, so it doesn't get distributed anywhere. But, if you have a criminal record or a medical issue, we are going to have to ask about that because it can affect your admissibility to Canada. So, this is very rare, but maybe your spouse who's going to be on the call doesn't know about your record or your condition. So you might want to have those discussions before the meeting, because it's kind of important to go over those before even starting with your process, because it might delay it down the line. So just kind of prepare yourself, and anything that you have questions on, get those ready and just be prepared to kind of answer everything honestly, if I can put it that way.
Great. And out of all the questions that you get, which one do you get asked the most often?
Oof. Well, it used to be, what are you doing in South Africa? but lately that one's stopped now. A lot of people say, what's the likelihood of success? And with each conversation, it's going to be a different answer, because for some people, we can say your score is definitely going to be within a region that it's looking good. We can never say 100%, and no one should ever tell you that anything is a guarantee, because they can't. But we can tell you, is it likely? Is it extremely unlikely? And if it is unlikely, we try to give you options that are available to you that might be a bit more work. But definitely the question we're getting the most is, is this going to work out for us or not? And it's just really dependent on your own personal background at this stage.
Yeah, the questions I think that you would get now is how is Ottawa, or is Ottawa a place to move to?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked us, well, actually, they usually ask me how my husband is dealing with the winter. But no, if you have all the proper clothing, it's been fine. And I must say, Ottawa, it's a great place for families. So if you do have young kids, school system's good. It's just smaller. The people have been great. So everybody's got a different idea of where they want to go. And there's so many great communities across Canada. So it doesn't come down to just one province. It's sort of what you're looking for as a family. Do you like big cities, small areas? You'll always find something that's going to work for you.
Absolutely. And I think the question for me that we got most often is, do I go to Canada? Do I go to BC, or do I go to Toronto, or do I move to whatever place it might be? And I always just say to people, I said, you go where you find a job. That is the easiest. When the first answer that I give people is going there where you find a job. I think you need to then find out what are the cities around that, and you'll find wherever you go, the school system is great. The people are great. So you'll be okay with that. It's just where your income will come from will determine where you're going to land up. And you need to, and that's why this process is important. Is if you know what are your chances, if your chances might be better landing up in Toronto because of being an IT-focused industry or whatever that might be, you'll know where to put your energy and time in, rather than trying all over Canada, and you might not have the best opportunity in, let's say, New Brunswick or whatever the case might be, because your points are not, going to get you there. I want to end off with asking you this. If there's one piece of advice that you could give away for free, what would that be?
Do your homework. Do your homework, because I've just seen it time and time again with consults that people might have just read something somewhere, or again gotten the wrong advice and just taken it at face value, and they're spending hundreds of dollars or thousands of rands or thousands of dollars to go down a pathway that's not going to work for them. So they're doing language tests, spending the money on education assessments for a process that's not going to work for their background. So really just do your research and be realistic about your chances. And again, it's just because we've seen this, if you get someone to tell you, this unfortunately is not going to work, the only way for you to do it is X, Y, Z. But then another person comes along and says, well, for 50,000 Rand, we will get it done for you. It sounds too good to be true, but some people just really want it so badly that they're willing to do that. Do your homework on the company. Don't waste the money just because it sounds great and you just want it so badly. Be realistic. That's, That's the two things I would say. Do your homework and just honestly be realistic with yourselves, because you don't want to waste time and energy on something that's not going to work out.
Well, that's all for today's episode of the Howzit.ca podcast. Thanks for listening, and thank you to Deanne and Werner for joining me today, sharing their personal journey of helping people immigrate to Canada. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. And thanks again, Werner, Deanne. It's been great having you on the show.
Thanks, Melanie. Thank you for having us.
This episode of the Howzit.ca podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more casual conversations, success stories, and advice to South Africans in Canada.